You don't own this house anymore, Margaret. You're old, and it's time you accepted that. Her voice sliced through me like ice. Watch your tone, Tara, I said quietly, though my hands were trembling. That house is my life's work. Your life's work? She laughed. You mean the one my husband and I have been paying to maintain for 3 years? And before I could answer, it happened. A sharp crack filled the air, and for a second the world went silent. She had slapped me. My daughter-in-law had just slapped me across my own porch in front of neighbors who pretended not to see, and in front of my son, who said nothing. I stood frozen, not because of the pain, but because of the look in her eyes, that cold mixture of victory and contempt. And my son? He didn't even flinch. He just looked down, hands in his pockets, like a little boy caught in the rain, waiting for it to pass. Hey there, dear friends. Welcome to Real Hope Diaries, a place where real stories meet real emotions. If you've ever been disrespected by someone you helped, this one's for you. Before we dive deeper, I want to thank all our amazing subscribers. You're the reason these stories come to life every week. And to anyone new, welcome to the family. Let's say a short prayer together before we begin. Heavenly Father, bless every person listening today. Give strength to those who feel unseen, courage to those who've been betrayed, and peace to those standing up for what's right. Amen. Now, let me tell you how it all began. Because the day my daughter-in-law slapped me wasn't the day I broke. It was the day I finally decided to stand tall again. When you've worked your entire life for something, it becomes more than bricks and walls. It becomes you. That little blue house on Birchwood Lane wasn't just a home, it was a heartbeat, mine and my late husband's, Paul's. We bought it when I was 26. Back then, we didn't have much, just dreams and a few $100s. Paul was a mechanic. I was working as a school secretary. Every wall, every tile, every garden flower, it carried our fingerprints. We painted the nursery ourselves when I was pregnant with our son, Evan. We even carved our initials under the front steps one rainy night after too much wine. And when cancer took Paul at 43, I swore that house would never fall into the wrong hands. But love makes you blind, even to the people living under your own roof. Evan was my everything. He had Paul's kindness and my stubbornness. He went to college on scholarships, came home proud, and met her at a charity event, Tara. She was young, beautiful, and ambitious, the kind of woman who could light up a room and somehow dim everyone else in it. At first, I adored her. She called me Mom. She brought me flowers. She helped me cook on weekends. But I started noticing little things. The way she flinched when I offered advice. The way she'd roll her eyes when Evan wasn't looking. The way she started calling my house the Lane property. And I thought, property? That word stung. It was a home, not real estate. Still, I stayed quiet, because that's what mothers do. When they married, I gifted them the upstairs suite. I thought it'd help them save for their own home. But months turned into years, and they never left. Slowly, I started feeling like a guest in my own house. It started small. Tara took over the kitchen. She said she was modernizing it, but she threw away my cast iron pans and replaced them with designer cookware. Then she painted the living room gray, the same one Paul and I had built together. When I protested, she smiled that polite, sharp smile. "Oh, Margaret, you'll love it once it's done. We have to increase the property value." I didn't understand what she meant by we. But Evan, my sweet boy, just nodded along. "It's fine, Mom. Tara's just trying to help. The house could use an update." Update. That word became another knife. One evening while they were out, I sat alone in that gray living room. It smelled of paint and emptiness. My old curtains were gone. My framed wedding photo had been replaced by a mirror. And for the first time, I realized I didn't belong there anymore.
That's when I reconnected with Michael Grant, my old neighbor from 2 doors down. He'd been a widower for 10 years. Kind man, steady. He'd lost his wife to a stroke and lived alone with his golden retriever, Daisy. One afternoon, he saw me struggling with the mailbox and offered to fix it. We talked for hours afterward, about the neighborhood, about loss, about life. It felt good to be seen again. Michael had a way of listening that made silence comfortable. He didn't pity me, he respected me. Sometimes he'd bring dinner over. Sometimes he'd just sit quietly beside me on the porch. He'd look at the gray paint and say, "Doesn't feel like you anymore, Maggie." And he was right. But it was still my home. One morning, I went looking for a photo album in the study. While searching through the drawers, I found an envelope with legal documents, papers bearing my signature. But I hadn't signed anything. The papers were for a transfer of ownership, the deed of the house. According to those papers, the property was already listed under Evan and Tara Lane. My heart stopped. I called Evan immediately. "Evan, why is my name missing from the property deed?" He sighed, like I was the one being unreasonable. "Mom, it's just a formality. The bank said joint ownership simplifies taxes. Tara handled the paperwork. You probably forgot you signed it." Forgot? I might forget where I put my glasses, but not the house I've worked my entire life for. That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced the hallway, tears burning in my eyes. That's when I realized my son wasn't protecting me anymore. He was protecting her.
You know, sometimes the people we raise grow into strangers we no longer recognize. If you discovered your child was helping someone take away everything you worked for, what would you do? Would you confront them or walk away in silence? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. I really want to know what your heart says. 2 weeks later, I invited them both for dinner. I made Evan's favorite, pot roast with honey carrots. I wanted to remind him of home, of what we used to be. When we sat down, I looked Tara straight in the eye. "I know what you did." She blinked, pretending not to understand. "What do you mean?" "The house. The papers. My signature. You forged it. Her lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I don't know what you're talking about, Margaret. Evan looked between us, anxious. Mom, please, not this again. But I didn't stop. You're stealing my home! And that's when Tara stood up, her chair scraping the floor. You think you own this house? You've lived here long enough. Evan and I are starting a family. We need space. You can move into a senior complex. We'll take care of you. I don't need you to take care of me, I snapped. And that's when she did it. The slap. Harder this time. You don't own this house anymore, she hissed. Evan jumped up, shouting, Tara! But it was too late. I stood there trembling, a red mark blooming across my cheek. I looked at my son, the boy I'd once cradled through fevers and heartbreaks, and he couldn't even look me in the eye. For days after that night, silence became my closest companion. The slap still echoed in my head, not because of the sting on my cheek, but because of the emptiness that followed. Evan didn't call, Tara didn't apologize, and the neighbors, they looked at me differently now, with that soft, pitying glance reserved for people whose lives have turned into gossip. I stopped watering my roses. I stopped cooking. The air in the house felt colder, heavier. Every corner whispered betrayal. At night, I'd wake up reaching for Paul, forgetting for a moment that he'd been gone 12 years. I used to think grief was the worst kind of pain, but betrayal from your own child? That's a different kind of death. On the 5th morning, I heard a knock. It was Michael, standing on the porch with Daisy wagging beside him. He looked at me, eyes soft but firm. You haven't been out in days, Maggie. Come on, walk with me. I started to refuse, but something in his voice reminded me of who I used to be, the woman who loved long talks and garden walks, not the ghost I'd become. We strolled down Birchwood Lane in silence until we reached the park. Leaves rustled under our shoes, and for the first time in days, I breathed. Michael finally said, I heard about what happened. I stiffened. Everyone did. I'm not here to talk about them, he said quietly. I'm here to talk about you. He stopped walking and looked straight at me. You built that home. You raised your son in it. If someone took it from you, you can take it back, not out of anger, but out of truth. I didn't answer right away. My eyes stung. I'm tired, Michael, I whispered, too tired to fight. He nodded slowly. Then don't fight for revenge. Fight for peace. That home hold your memories. Don't let someone rewrite them. Something in his words settled deep in me, like sunlight through storm clouds. For the first time since the slap, I stood taller. The next morning, I went to the county records office. The clerk, a young man with kind eyes, pulled up the property records. According to this, he said, turning the screen toward me, the deed was transferred 3 months ago to Evan and Tara Lane. Digital signature, File notarized online. I clenched my fists. Can I get a copy? He printed it out, and there it was, my name, forged in neat cursive that wasn't mine. But the notary's seal, that was my opening. It belonged to a woman named Lisa Graham, someone I didn't know. I left the office with trembling hands and a racing heart. Michael was waiting by his truck when I returned. "Well?" he asked. I clenched my fists. They forged it. They actually forged it. He exhaled. Then it's time to stop being quiet. Over coffee that afternoon, Michael helped me map out my next steps. He had a friend, a retired lawyer named Ben. We called him, explained everything, and by evening we were sitting in Ben's office, surrounded by stacks of old law books and the smell of tobacco. Ben studied the documents for a long while. Then he looked up. "This is fraud, and if you play this right, not only can you get the house back, but you can teach them both a lesson they won't forget. But I don't want to destroy my son. I just want my home." Ben nodded. "Then we'll do it the right way, quietly, legally." We filed an official report with the Property Fraud Division. They launched an investigation. It would take weeks, maybe months. In the meantime, I had to keep calm, even if that meant living under the same roof with my betrayers. That night, as I unlocked my front door, I saw Tara's car in the driveway and her laughter echoing through the window. My own laughter, the one that once filled those walls, had vanished. When I stepped inside, the room fell silent. Tara looked up from the couch. "Oh, you're back." I ignored her and walked toward the stairs. Evan appeared from the kitchen. "Mom, wait." I turned, my voice steady. "What is it?" He hesitated, guilt flickering across his face. "Tara told me you're planning to move out." "Tara tells you many things," I said. "Do you ever stop to think for yourself?" He frowned. "It's for your own good, the maintenance, the stress. You can't keep doing this alone." "Don't worry," I said coldly. "I won't be alone." And with that, I walked upstairs, every step echoing louder than the last. In my room, I closed the door, sat on the bed, and whispered, "Paul, if you're watching, give me strength. I'm not done yet." Weeks passed. I lived quietly, keeping up the illusion of cooperation while the investigation moved forward. Every morning I'd wave to Michael from my window as he walked Daisy. Every night I'd journal everything, every comment Tara made, every slip of her tongue. One morning, a letter arrived from the county office. It confirmed what I already knew. My signature had been digitally forged using an online verification system that Tara had manipulated through Evan's work account. The case was now official. I sat at the kitchen table, the paper trembling in my hands, and smiled for the first time in months. Justice had begun.
You know, sometimes life tests us by sending the hardest betrayals through the people we love most. But I want to ask you something. If someone took everything from you, your peace, your trust, your home, would you fight back quietly or storm in loudly? Drop your answer in the comments, because your voice matters here.
It was a Sunday morning when they came. 2 officers knocked on the door, polite but firm. Tara opened it, her voice sweet but uneasy. "Can I help you?" "Ma'am," one said, "we have a few questions regarding a property ownership dispute." Evan walked in, confusion on his face. "What's going on?" I stepped out of the hallway, holding the official letter. "What's going on," I said, "is justice." Tara's face drained of color. The officers presented the documents and asked her to come down to the station for questioning. She stammered, tried to explain, but they'd already seen the evidence. Evan turned to me, eyes wide. "Mom, you did this?" "I didn't do this," I said softly. "She did. I just stopped pretending not to see it." As they led Tara out, Evan stood frozen, watching the woman he loved unravel. For the first time, I saw the little boy I once knew, lost, frightened, realizing that truth was heavier than comfort. The investigation moved fast. Tara was charged with forgery and fraud, but released on bail. Evan stayed at a friend's house for a while. I stayed in the home, my home, and for the first time, silence didn't hurt. It healed. But one evening, I heard a knock. It was Evan. His eyes were red, his face drawn. "Mom, I'm so sorry." I looked at him for a long moment. "Do you know what hurts most, Evan?" He shook his head. "That you stood there. You stood there and watched her humiliate me in front of everyone." He swallowed hard. "I thought I was keeping the peace." "Peace built on silence is surrender," I said. He started to cry, real broken sobs. "I lost everything, Mom. Tara's gone. I ruined our family." I reached out, touched his hand. "No, son, you didn't lose everything. You still have a chance to do what's right. That's what your father would have wanted." Over the next few months, Evan helped me restore the house. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. We repainted the walls, replacing Tara's gray with warm honey beige. We replanted the roses together. We even found the old carving under the porch steps. P+M, 1983. One afternoon, Michael came by with Daisy and smiled. "Looks like Birchwood Lane has its color back." Evan nodded. "It feels like home again." Michael glanced at me, his eyes kind. "It is home again." Something passed between us, unspoken but warm. For years, I'd built my life around loss and regret, but now I saw a future again. A quieter one, maybe, but full of peace. It started with coffee on the porch, then walks, then dinners that turned into laughter and quiet conversations about what-ifs and maybes. Michael wasn't just company, he was calm. And calm, I realized, is its own kind of love. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the maple trees, he reached for my hand. "You've been through fire, Maggie," he said softly, "but you came out gold." I smiled, a tear slipping free. Maybe I just had the right neighbor. He chuckled. Or maybe we were both just waiting for the right time. That night, for the first time in years, I didn't dream of loss. I dreamed of beginnings. Months later, I received a final letter from the county. The property was officially restored in my name. I framed it, not out of pride, but as a reminder that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, "I endured." I hosted a small dinner to celebrate. Evan came, bringing flowers. Michael brought pie. Even the neighbors stopped by, each one offering small apologies wrapped in smiles. As I stood in that living room, surrounded by laughter again, I felt Paul's presence, not haunting, but blessing. And for the first time, the house didn't feel heavy with memories. It felt alive with them. Months later, I received a final letter from the county. The property was officially restored in my name. I framed it, not out of pride, but as a reminder that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, "I endured." I hosted a small dinner to celebrate. Evan came, bringing flowers. Michael brought pie. Even the neighbors stopped by, each one offering small apologies wrapped in smiles. As I stood in that living room, surrounded by laughter again, I felt Paul's presence, not haunting, but blessing. And for the first time, the house didn't feel heavy with memories. It felt alive with them. Friends, if you've ever been betrayed, listen to me closely. You can lose almost everything: respect, comfort, even family, but never lose your dignity. Because dignity is what rebuilds you when the world tears you apart. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe for more real-life lessons and redemptive stories here on Real Hope Diaries. They say blood is thicker than water, but sometimes the people who stand by you, who fight for you, aren't bound by blood. They're bound by choice, by loyalty, by love. I lost a home once, but in reclaiming it, I found something greater: myself. So when I see the morning sun spill through my window now, I whisper, "Thank you, God, not for the pain, but for what it taught me."